Okay, well, we'll get started here. Welcome to the Singularity CE community meeting. We're at a different time than the previous meetings have been. We were trying out a kind of flip-flop schedule of doing a meeting early US time and a meeting late US time to try and attract some attendance from Europe and so on. It doesn't look like that kind of really happened, attracting more people, and we had heard that it was inconvenient for a number of our users or community members in the US. So we've gone back to running this call in the middle of the day, US. So we'll see how that goes. Because we made a relatively short notice change, we don't have our usual show and tell session where we have someone invited to show off a tool that uses Singularity or workflows involving Singularity. Instead, we're going to get straight into the updates on the releases and development work, and we'll move to any other business and questions at the end. This meeting is recorded and posted to YouTube, and we tend to find that the majority of people who see it after the fact there, rather than joining us. If you're watching this on YouTube, please feel free to jump into our SingularityCE Slack channel and ask us questions, or engage us in conversation on the Google group mailing list, or anywhere else that you see us. Okay, so the first thing to kind of look at in this call is a bit of an update on what's happening as we move towards SingularityCE 3.9, for which the release date is November 16th. We currently have in our changelog 3 RCs here. So the first one, we've been through all the features here that were being brought in for 3.9 in previous calls. About a week ago, we brought out a second RC. This had a security fix around the new NVIDIA container CLI functionality, which was only present in the 3.9.0 RC1. It didn't affect any stable release versions, but that was fixed in the 3.9.0 RC2. That also had a couple of bug fixes and some behavior changes on handling of paths of the external binaries related to the security fix to tighten up some particularly sensitive binaries when SingularityCE is installed in a set UID approach. So before we kind of carry on, are there any questions about this RC2 and the security issue that anyone has? Okay, well, later on today, probably in the next couple of hours, we'll be issuing a 3.9.0 RC3. And this is really to bring in a couple of additional kind of changes, features we want to make sure get out there in the 3.9.0 stable release. The new feature down here is that for library URIs, when you're pulling a container from the Sylabs cloud library, or for places who have like an on-premise install of our enterprise product, we're now going to perform downloads using concurrent downloads of multiple parts of the container at the same time. So that will speed up the pull performance for people. And I personally see about 20% speed increase on a good connection up to our public cloud, but in other situations we've seen much larger increases than that. The other thing that's coming in RC3 is that in our SingularityConf configuration file, we've always had some directives which are sort of allow container XXX, where XXX is a type of container file system. And these directives were there so that an administrator can deny users the ability to run certain types of container images. What was there before were limitations on SquashFS images, ext file system images, and containers in directories or sandboxes. And since encryption support, another one for limiting use of encrypted containers. The trouble with this is that they also apply to our CIF file containers because CIF is a wrapper format. So it's a single file, and inside it, there are embedded file systems. And those file systems have certain types. And these allow container configuration rules we're applying to the file systems inside the CIF image. But the way we talk about CIF images with Singularity means that that isn't very intuitive. We tend to say, oh, you have a CIF container if you're working with something that's been built with Singularity 3.x, or you have a SquashFS container if you've got an older container that was built with Singularity 2. And it's confusing to people and ourselves that you can sort of block access to this SquashFS file system type, and it affects both the Singularity 2 SquashFS kind of bare image files, but also affects CIF containers because they have a SquashFS file system embedded in them. So the change here for 3.9 is now that we have a new thing called allow container CIF, which applies to unencrypted CIF images. Allow container encrypted permits or denies usage of CIF images which have an encrypted root file system in them. And then the allow container SquashFS or EXTFS options, they now only apply to bare images in those formats. So it's now a bit more intuitive. You can say, okay, well, I'll allow my users to run CIF containers, but not the Singularity 2 bare SquashFS type images. Or if you really wanted to, you could do it the other way around and say, oh, we're only going to use bare Squash images here. We're not going to allow CIF. And you've got that granularity now, and it's a bit more intuitive. So this is what's coming out in the 3.9.0 RC3. If you have any time spare, it would be great if you could grab the release candidate, install it, have a play with it, and maybe run some of your important workflows through it. As I mentioned, we're aiming to release the stable version in 12 days now as 3.9.0, and it's quite likely that it'll be a kind of upgrade of this RC3 to the stable release if major things aren't found. Do you have any questions about the RCs and 3.9, or anyone else want to interject? Okay, let's move on then to the next item. We've got here roadmap review of 3.10 versus 4.0 for the next release. So we've had a bit of a discussion in these calls and on Slack a little about what's next after 3.9. Does SingularityCE go with a 3.10 release, which is a continuation of the current version series in 6 months' time? Or do we jump up to a 4.0 release because we want to make more significant changes which might affect the CLI, how people interact with it, or anything that might affect the image format would also kind of require going to a new major version to kind of indicate that type of change. And at Sylabs, we've kind of been talking about it, and in the community Slack, we've seen a little bit of discussion, and some questions have come out in these previous meetings. It looks now more likely that a 3.10 is where we're going. So on our roadmap, we have set out features which are types of things which are possible to implement in a 3.x. And then we have features which we initially thought were things which would require a 4.0. So definitely some of the stuff in here about reworking the command line, which would change the interaction with some of the main commands. These are things we probably wouldn't attack in a 3.10, but some other stuff like a bit of tidy up and potentially support for features like obeying Dockerfile user, which wouldn't impact backwards compatibility. Those might actually also be able to be moved into this kind of list of 3.x features. Now, the reason kind of internally we've settled on 3.10 rather than 4.0 is that when we've gone through and we've thought about what we'd like to do, which would require us to go to a 4.0 release, a lot of the things we'd like to do there are really focused around developer priorities rather than user priorities. They might be things which are kind of big tidy ups internal to the code, or things which make future work a lot easier for the developer by restructuring stuff. Singularity went through a relatively difficult transition from the 2.x to the 3.x series, where a lot of people delayed upgrading to 3.x because it didn't really give anything which was especially compelling for them to upgrade until it reached sort of version 3.4 or later in some cases. And we want to avoid having that issue here and kind of splitting people across versions and unnecessarily introducing some complication and confusion if there aren't real compelling features that a lot of people want, which would kind of bring them up to 4.0 because they want access to those features. So that's the thinking. Do you want to mention anything on this? I know we've kind of discussed internally about this quite a bit.
Yeah, I would just kind of emphasize your point that we really are looking for feedback from the community for this. So, and if there's anything not on this list, either for a 3x feature or a potential 4x feature that you would see as being crucial for a next version, whether that's 3 or 4, we'd love to hear it. I think one of the most challenging things as a development team is trying to decide priorities when within the team without having that feedback. So we've gotten some great feedback on this list already, but if there's anybody listening on this call or watching it later that has a great idea that isn't on here, this is a community document, so we'd really encourage you to jump in and start that discussion. It could be on here or Slack or the mailing list. Really, whatever is the most convenient for you. We would definitely be listening to that. So yeah, I think that's it from my perspective.
Cool. I should point out again that our roadmap is a collaborative document. So this button at the top to collaborate on HackMD You can click on that and you'll get through, and you'll be able to edit this and kind of put suggestions on there. So we've got lots of different ways you can kind of pitch in some ideas. You can drop them directly in here. You can ping people on the Slack channel. There's the mailing list. Or if you've got sort of a worked through idea of a type of feature you'd like to see, then please do go ahead and submit that as a sort of feature request on the GitHub issue tracker. If things aren't worked out kind of completely, it's something for discussion, then maybe dropping it into the roadmap and bringing it to the Slack channel or these meetings and so on is good first step. If it's quite well fleshed out in your mind, then the issue tracker is definitely an appropriate place to put those. But anyway, that's where we stand. So it looks like from our perspective that 3.10 is more likely, but if we do see broad community wish for features that really would drive usage of a 4.0 and require a 4.0 because of the nature of the changes that are needed, then that's certainly something we would look at again. So that's all we have on the kind of programmed agenda for today. It's a bit of an odd one. I apologize for the short notice on the time change. In December, we will have a show and tell session. I'm not confirmed entirely on what it's going to be yet, but we will continue our effort to kind of show off workflows and tools around SingularityCE in that slot. So it's not just kind of development updates and developer talk. But if anyone has any other kind of business, any other questions that you'd like to raise, please do. Dave, I saw you just drop in here. If there's anything you're wanting to ask, I don't mind going back over some of the stuff we talked about as we're on a bit of a short call this month.
No, I just got lost on the time, that's all. So I guess I'll just watch the video.
Okay, great. Anything anyone else wants to raise?
I guess one thing is about the calendar event. You didn't have like a shared calendar event, did you? You just like sent an invitation to each person? So I had to change that.
No, so we don't send an invitation. We have a shared calendar you can subscribe to. If you go to the CE community, we usually link to this header. You can either go through to the Google Web Calendar link, and you'll see the meetings on here, and you can kind of go in and add them to your Google Calendar. If you're using a Mac, then we've got a direct iCal format link, which will open up in your Mac calendar program and add to it. So it's a shared calendar subscription rather than invites sent out to people.
Right. So I think I did that in the first place, but the problem is that it's a copy. It's not something you could then change that everybody gets updated. You have to go back to there to resubscribe, the way it seems.
For the iCal one,
I probably used the iCal one.
Yeah, I think that might be a limitation of the iCal. I'm not sure whether Google exposes a CalDAV one, which will kind of sync properly, but I'll take a look at that.
Okay. As long as I have it changed, and that was the part of the problem, I think. It looks like I don't have a
I can kind of lend a little assistance here. If you in the calendar for Mac, I'm assuming, if you click File, there's a new calendar subscription option, and then you drop in that calendar link, and it should auto link with any updates and things like that. Because for me, that's what I did the first time, and it actually, like, when we changed the time, I now see it. You know, it automatically updated for me. I didn't have to go and do anything.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So
Yeah,
you go
that's
to
it.
calendar subscription and then go
You
to
paste
the
the link.
iCalendar link and fill that in.
Yep, and then it should just be a live like feed.
I think I probably just clicked on the link and then it said, you know, where do you want to process this, and you're in your calendar, and yeah. Okay, I'll try that. I see also that this one didn't even have an alarm put on it. So that was probably my problem too. I didn't get notified. Anyway, I had it for the wrong time zone. So, oh, well, sorry about that. I'll get it figured out.
Okay, well, we'll get this posted shortly, and we'll get it posted up on YouTube today, I think. And yeah, a bit of a just fairly quiet call today with updates as we look to the 3.90. Next month we'll have had that 3.90 release out, and we'll get back to talking more about future plans as we start work on the next version, and we'll have a show and tell session as well. So thanks for dropping in, and if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for listening all the way through. Please, like I said, drop into the Slack or the Google group and so on if you have any questions. And I think that'll do us for today. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.